and we got an SEC Big 12 matchup. And since they formed this alliance between the SEC and the Big 12 and the Texas Bowl, the likes of Arkansas having its way 2 years ago against Texas. And this year it's the Aggies and the Wildcats. Kansas State, I got to say, I'm a bit surprised by the 8-4 finish. Texas A&M kind of coming at it from a different perspective. They got off to the hot start. They were top 5 in the nation. They played well against Alabama for a half, and injuries to Trevor Knight and just falling off the radar late. So different motivations maybe in this one. Texas Bowl, Texas A&M, Kansas State.
Yeah, this is one of my better picks of all bowl season. At the start of the year, I was very high on Texas A&M. I thought they would challenge Alabama, especially in that ball game in Tuscaloosa. They had the 14-13 lead, couldn't hold on, lost that matchup 33-14. But I was very down on K-State overall. When you look at their offense, a very methodical, blue-collar type of team that really struggles in terms of speed on the perimeter. I think their whole offense revolves solely around quarterback Jesse Ertz. You shut him down, you could shut down that offense. And I think this is a really bad matchup for Kansas State. I think the way you have to beat Kansas State, you have to strike first. You have to put the pressure on their offense to match them score for score. If you're going to get into a 3-and-out type of game and give the football back to Kansas State and allow them to drive the length of the field and kick a field goal, and all of a sudden now 9 minutes are off the clock, K-State will be in this game from start to finish. I think Texas A&M has the playmakers. Now, Speedy Noel is suspended for this game. It doesn't matter, in my opinion. Christian Kirk, Josh Reynolds, Ricky Seals-Jones, Travion Williams, Keith Ford, and a healthy Trevor Knight will put pressure on Kansas State secondary. I think the difference of Texas A&M with Jake Hubenak to Trevor Knight is there's no threat of Trevor Knight in the read option with Jake Hubenak at the helm. He's a prototypical quarterback that you know where he's going to be. If Trevor Knight's healthy in this matchup, Kansas State really has to defend the read option, and they have to defend the wide receivers on the outside, especially on seam routes. This is a Kansas State defense that's given up 259 passing yards per game. If you've watched them throughout the year, especially in that game against Oklahoma, when you have playmakers on the outside, you can exploit them vertically. And I think Texas A&M wins this game by 20 or more. I really feel this is a bad matchup for Kansas State. One of my better picks all bowl season. I think Texas A&M wins this ball game 40-20. That's how strongly I feel about this matchup.
Okay, doesn't surprise me. We saw Kansas State line up against Arkansas in the Liberty Bowl last year, and we saw them compete. They were in a one-score game most of the way. Just the physical pounding of the Arkansas running game, the superior athletes in the fourth quarter in the last 10 to 12 minutes, and suddenly it was like a 45-23 game, and they win by 3+ touchdowns. And this could be very similar. Like you say, it's one of those matchups that just you have the feel of the athletes versus some limitations on the athletic side for the other team, and you know that the one team, Kansas State, in this situation has to play a near perfect game to combat the athleticism and the athletic gap. This is a Texas A&M team that I thought had the best wide receiver core in college football entering the season. I'd give that to Clemson right now because they go 5 or 6 deep with exceptional players. But still, yeah, A&M, even without Speedy Noel, with plenty of playmakers. Myles Garrett, despite the issues we see with the likes of Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey not playing, here's the kid that's probably going to be the number 1 selection in the NFL draft who's saying, hey, I'm playing with my guys, and I'm going to go out in style and get a W for my alma mater. So that's good to see.
Yeah, that's a great point that you bring up about Myles Garrett. I think when you look at a defensive game plan against Kansas State, it is the defensive end play of Myles Garrett and Deshaun Hall, their speed off the edge that'll contain Jesse Ertz. I don't think they've seen 2 defensive ends that are coming off the edge like Deshaun Hall and Myles Garrett all season long, especially in the read option. So that's why I like Texas A&M as well. And if you give John Chavis 4 weeks of preparation time, he'll come up with a defensive game plan to really neutralize Kansas State's offense. And look out for safety Armani Watts. His ability in run support, he might spy Jesse Ertz in this ball game, shut down the read option, force Jesse Ertz to throw over the top. Bad matchup for Kansas State, in my opinion.